Welcome, everyone, and we're back with another episode of the AAC podcast, bringing to you a condensed version of just what happened on Monday Night Football, my top 5 winners and losers. Appreciate you guys for listening, subscribing out there. So I'm going to get right to it. Pittsburgh Steelers yesterday played on Monday Night Football. Pittsburgh won this game 27-14. It was a relatively slow start for the Pittsburgh Steelers and almost had me thinking they were going to lose to the SeaWorld traveling circus that is the Miami Dolphins. I was legit concerned for a quarter because the Pittsburgh Steelers found themselves down 14-0 in the first quarter. Defense didn't look good, didn't communicate on a switch in man coverage. There was motion across the formation in the red zone against the Miami Dolphins. So that was disappointing. They gave up a touchdown via that. And then they gave up another long drive, and Ryan Fitzpatrick threw another touchdown pass that ultimately put the Miami Dolphins up 14-0. Pittsburgh Steelers just had no answers for Ryan Fitzpatrick in the first quarter. Second quarter, they tightened up a little bit and scored 10 points. Ryan Fitzpatrick in this game was 21-34, 190 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. But Mason Rudolph in the first half looked like he was seeing ghosts, and it's not even Halloween yet. He looked like he was seeing ghosts like Sam Darnold said he was last Monday night against the New England Patriots because he was jittery in the pocket. He was struggling going through his progressions. He had plenty of time to throw. The offensive line was holding up, so much so that we got a few holding calls on Marquise Pouncey. But Mason Rudolph was struggling for the first quarter. It looked like he was still concussed or he was still blurry-eyed or whatever. I don't know what it was going on, but he was struggling in the first quarter, and he just couldn't get anything going. The running game was struggling. Passing game, he threw an interception right to Xavier Howard, trying to loft it in the middle of the field. It just wasn't a good look overall. So in the first, it was a tale of two halves in this game for Mason Rudolph. I mean, he did throw a touchdown pass at the end of the quarter because the Miami Dolphins sent an all-out blitz, cover zero blitz, sending 8 defenders foolishly at the Pittsburgh Steelers, and Steelers were ready for it. Deontay Johnson caught a slant pass and took it the distance. But overall, Mason Rudolph in the first half was 9-20 for 138 yards with a touchdown and an interception. That was abysmal first half. It was a first half to forget. But what kept the Steelers in this game was their resolve, number one. They didn't quit. They stuck to their game plan, which was running the football. James Conner in this game had his best game of the season so far. 23 rushes for 145 yards and a touchdown. He kept them in the game the whole game. I said going into this game that two keys was the Steelers had to assert their dominance on defense, and they also had to get the receivers involved, and they got them involved. Deontay Johnson had 5 receptions, 84 yards, a touchdown. He's a really good rookie out of Toledo, and he's continued to make plays. That's why he's the starting receiver other than next to Juju Smith-Schuster. And Juju had a good game, 5 receptions for 103 yards and a touchdown. But Mason Rudolph in the second half was much better, much more polished. 11-16 for 113 yards and a touchdown. And according to Next Gen Stats, had a completion percentage above expectation of 13%. So that was very, very impressive what he did in the second half. He also completed 5 of 10 passes for 88 yards and a touchdown on passes of 10-plus air yards, which was something I also said going into the game was the Steelers were going to have to open up the playbook a little more and take off the training wheels with Mason Rudolph if they wanted to be successful because they had to get these receivers involved. They couldn't keep relying on throwing check downs to the running backs and screens and stuff like that, a bunch of dinky plays. That wasn't gonna keep happening as far as like success wise for what the Pittsburgh Steelers were trying to do. They're gonna have to open up this playbook a little more and show that Mason Rudolph has a big arm because we all know he has a big arm. He played at Oklahoma State, so that's a spread offense, air raid offense. So they had to open up this playbook and show what Mason Rudolph could do. And I also said they had to get these receivers involved, and that's exactly what they did. They got their 2 main weapons involved. I'm still kind of disappointed in the production from James Washington. He got a key 20-yard catch yesterday on a first or second down and long, so that was helpful. But that was Mason Rudolph's college teammate and also his college roommate. So, all preseason they had a very good connection going deep. So I want to see James Washington get involved a little bit. But the Steelers have 3 young receivers, and I really like that. They have a lot of young talent on this team. I'm not going to touch on that right now. But compared to my other team, the Philadelphia Eagles, they have a very young team and a lot of good young pieces. But overall, Mason Rudolph in total threw for 251 yards. It was a up and down game, but second half he looked much better, much more seasoned, did what he was supposed to do. But Juju Smith-Schuster was the guy that I feel like the Steelers had to get involved. They had to get him involved, and He had success against everybody in Dolphins secondary except Xavier Howard. Xavier Howard looked like a lockdown corner yesterday. It's unfortunate that he left the game in the third quarter with a knee injury, I believe. But versus Howard, 2 targets, 0 receptions, and an interception for Juju Smith-Schuster. Against all others, 7 targets, 5 receptions, 103 yards, and a touchdown, according to Next Gen Stats. So Juju Smith-Schuster's production has dipped a little bit because of Ben Roethlisberger, not having Ben Roethlisberger, obviously, and Mason Rudolph. He hasn't thrown the ball to receivers that much. It's mostly been tight ends and running backs. Then, Delvin Hodges came in and he threw it mostly to the running backs and tight ends and stuff. So the Steelers, if they want to continue to have success on the offensive side of the ball, because the defense is the strength of this team right now, if they want to continue to have success, they're going to have to throw the ball outside the numbers and get these other playmakers involved. But yesterday it was a step in the right direction, definitely as far as getting the receivers involved. So I was impressed with that for sure. It was something to behold. One thing that stood out to me on defense in the first quarter, because the Steelers weren't impressive in the first quarter on defense, that's the side of the ball that I have expectations for now. But in the first quarter, Joe Hayden was getting targeted an absurd amount of times by Ryan Fitzpatrick, and it was mostly in breaking routes like slants and deep dig routes, deep in routes, and Joe Hayden was just giving up receptions to Devontae Parker and some rookie named Preston Williams. I couldn't believe it. I'm like, damn, we just gave Joe Hayden this extension. He's getting roasted by rookies, and Devontae Parker, who has been a disappointment in Miami by their standards. Like, come on, man. You got to do better, man. You got to do better. I expect more from Joe Hayden after he just got his contract extension. I definitely expect a lot more than what I saw yesterday. So I'm looking for that to be improved going forward, because Steven Nelson's playing like a lockdown corner this year. He's playing like an absolute lockdown corner this year. He hasn't gotten the shine or recognition he deserves, but he's played like a top 5 corner this year, minus getting interceptions. But he hasn't been targeted that much. He has a 0% burn rate, which is giving up deep plays and getting roasted, basically the opposite of what the Philadelphia Eagles do, basically. Their corners. But he's only been targeted on 13% of his snaps, which is third most in the NFL, but he's only allowing a 23% catch rate. That's impressive. That's lockdown. On average, he's only given up 2 receptions per game for 33 yards per game, and he's allowing a completion percentage of 47.6 in his coverage. That is fantastic. That is elite if you're a corner. People were getting on. I wasn't sure about the Steven Nelson signing when we first signed him, but because he was coming from the Chiefs defense, and they were god-awful on defense last year. Worst pass defense in the league, just worst defense overall last year. It was appalling. It was abysmal what they were doing on defense. But Steven Nelson said it was mostly due to the Chiefs running the same stuff and not adjusting their coverages, which, I mean, I can't really say the Pittsburgh Steelers do that much because Keith Butler's the defensive coordinator. But right now, he looks like an elite corner, and right now he looks underpaid. He got a 3-year deal for like $21 million, but that looks underpaid right now because he's performing like a lot. He's our best corner right now. You can't even throw at him. Teams aren't even throwing at him. Like, he's been so impressive in coverage. He's getting a lot of pass breakups. He hasn't gotten an interception yet. He got a fumble recovery yesterday. But overall, Steven Nelson's been more than what we could have asked for, considering what our cornerback situation has been opposite Joe Hayden for the longest, with Cody Sensabaugh, Artie Burns, Ross Cockrell, just a bunch of guys you don't want starting for you. But I was impressed with that. That was something that I was very impressed by. TJ Watt, he's a superstar. It's just that simple. He had 2 sacks yesterday, 3 tackles, and 2 forced fumbles and a fumble recovery. This dude's a stud. And he's leading the Steelers with 16 quarterback hits, probably 17. It's 17. And he's also got 10 forced fumbles, which is tied for third most in the NFL since the start of the 2017 season. That is impressive. TJ Watt is just an animal. He's an animal. Steelers defense forced 4 turnovers yesterday, 2 Minka Fitzpatrick interceptions, one that people were questioning because he caught it, and the Steelers got the ball at the 3-yard line because it was on a deep pass where Ryan Fitzpatrick essentially threw a deep ball, and it was basically like a punt. You could consider it for the Miami Dolphins, even though it was a turnover because it ended up at the 3-yard line, Pittsburgh Steelers possession. But Steelers drove it 12, 13 plays, 97-yard drive, and it was a touchdown drive. And it was just a big momentum boost, regardless of the fact that it looked like a proverbial punt. It's still an interception. That just juices up the defense, gives them confidence, and that shows that they have the offense's back. So it was just a confidence boost. It's something that I feel like was important. Minka Fitzpatrick is the first Steeler since 2014 on December 28th to have 2 interceptions in a game, since Bryce McCain. I don't even know who that is, honestly, if I'm being honest. But that's impressive because the Steelers DBs, because last year the Steelers had only 15 takeaways all of last year. This year they have 19. That's impressive. Steelers defense is just They're animals out there. They're animals. They look fast. They look physical. They look aggressive. Look like they're definitely ball hawks because they're picking the ball off a lot. When the ball's on the ground, they're the first ones to the ground getting it. I like what the Steelers have at all three levels of the defense. And Minkah Fitzpatrick, he's just changed life for this defense. I can't even think of what the defense would be if we didn't have him, because we were giving up 30 points per game without him. Now we're only giving up 17. We only gave up 14 yesterday, and one of those was because Mason Rudolph threw a bad interception in Steelers territory. So, I mean, other than that, I mean, the Steelers didn't give up any points after the first quarter. They gave Miami 3 donuts in the second, third, and fourth quarter. So that was very impressive. I'm proud of what the Steelers are doing. It's very impressive what they're doing on defense. I wish we had a quarterback right now because that would make it all the much better, because we probably could be a legit contender. But right now, the Steelers just look impressive, and I'm proud that this defense is stepping up. I still don't know about them making the playoffs. You have other people saying, or other experts saying that, oh, there's still a chance, they're 3-4 and stuff. We play the Colts on Sunday. I don't know about that game. The Colts are relatively good, so that's going to be a tough game. But anything can happen, so I'm not going to rule it out. But just me personally as a fan and analyzing it, I still don't think the Steelers are going to the playoffs. I think the Baltimore Ravens are the best team in this division. You look at Cleveland's second half of their schedule is relatively easy. Pittsburgh, their second half of schedule is relatively easy, but I just think the Baltimore Ravens and the Cleveland Browns are more talented than them. I still think the Browns are a mess, and they're going to end up being a mess at the end of the day. They're not going to meet expectations, which was winning the division, but they're not even going to get a wild card to make the playoffs. I think only one team's coming out the AFC North, but Pittsburgh can definitely get themselves in the mix right now. They're second in the division right now because they're 3-4, and Cleveland Browns are 2-5. So overall, I like what the Pittsburgh Steelers are doing on defense. Still got some wrinkles to iron out on offense as far as getting receivers involved, continuing to run the football effectively. Coaching still gotta work out some kinks, because Randy Fichtner called a terrible first half game also as well. It just didn't look good overall. The Steelers did throw a lot more deep passes, which I am impressed about. Mason Rudolph was throwing it deep, and receivers were making plays on it. So I'm glad to see that. So right now, the Pittsburgh Steelers, they're trending upwards. We'll see what they do once they play the Indianapolis Colts, and whether they can get to 500 or whether they'll be 3-5. So that's all I got for that. But I want to get to my top 5 winners and my top 5 losers. So my first winner is Cooper Kupp, because my God, what a special performance he put on Sunday against the Cincinnati Bengals. That was a special performance. A 200-plus yard receiving game for Cooper Kupp, 220 receiving yards, and 2 touchdowns. That's impressive if you're Cooper Kupp. He only had 1 touchdown. Yeah, 227 receptions, 220 receiving yards, and 1 touchdown. That's Jared Goff's favorite target, number 1. Number 2, Cooper Kupp, he's just a good slot receiver. You saw what happened with this offense last year when he was in the slot, when they had to put in Josh Reynolds. It just wasn't the same. Cooper Kupp, he's a good route runner. He knows how to leverage his defenders. He's got good feet, good hands, can make physical catches, can also run pretty well. He's just a solid receiver. There's nothing else to say. He might be the second best receiver on this team. He might be the best receiver on this team, if I'm being honest. But I have to give that nod to Brandon Cooks, because Brandon Cooks has just been too productive for me not to say that. But Cooper Kupp, he might be better than Robert Woods. I think he is, in my estimation. Jared Goff seems to think so, because he throws him the ball a whole bunch. But Cooper Kupp was impressive, so I appreciate what he did. My second winner, the Philadelphia Eagles. And I wouldn't have them this high other than the fact that they made a statement game beating the Buffalo Bills 31-13 when a lot of people was writing them off and stuff, and me included, mostly because of their secondary, not because of the quarterback or the coach, but mostly because of the secondary, even though I have some questions about Doug Peterson, his play calling, and his overall offensive scheme being too predictable and stuff of that nature. But I wasn't sure about this Bills game going into it. I wasn't feeling that confident, but now looking back on it, I should have felt a little more confident, considering who the Buffalo Bills have played and who they've beaten. Nobodies. And so I just like the resolve of the Philadelphia Eagles team and how they responded. I thought it was a big game for Carson Wentz in his career. He showed up and balled out like he usually does. Offensive line showed up. Eagles ran the ball for 200-plus yards on the ground. Defense was relatively stellar, other than one drive where they let Josh Allen throw all over them, which is just inexcusable to me because he's a better runner than thrower. But overall, Philadelphia showed up and they put themselves back in the divisional race. So that was impressive to see. I still think they got to make some trades to shore up some problem areas on this team, but overall they put themselves in a position to succeed by winning and getting to 4-4. So I thought that was impressive. Top winner number 3 is Steelers defense. Of course, I already kind of talked about it, but I just want everyone to recognize, because if you know me, you have to have heard me talk about the Steelers defense and talk about it very, very angrily the last few years, because this defense has been atrocious the last few years. But this year, I have nothing to say. I can't critique the defense at all, especially after the trade for Minkah Fitzpatrick. The first 2 games, I could critique them because they were terrible against the New England Patriots and the Seattle Seahawks. But this year, they're 4th in sacks, opponent yards per game, they're 5th. Takeaways, they're 2nd. Interceptions, they're 2nd. Forced fumbles, they're 4th. And fumble recoveries, they're 1st. This defense is turning the ball over. They're making plays. They're just doing everything you need to do. And a sack rate, defensive sacks slash opponent dropback per opponent dropbacks, the Steelers are ranked 5th, tied with the Browns for 5th with 8.9%. So their sack rate is pretty high. They're getting turnovers at an alarming rate. Mind you, they have a 5 turnover game, a few 3 turnover games. They forced 4 turnovers yesterday. The Steelers' defense they're legit. They're legit. The next step for them is to look dominant and really impose their will on the team. That's the next step to them being. That's the next step in them being a dominant defense. Because right now they're a very good defense, but for them to be a dominant defense and take that next step, they have to impose their will and really like shut down a team and hit them in the mouth and really impose their will on a team and just take their soul. I know that sounds kind of dark and cruel, but that's kind of that's the next step for them to really improve as a defense. And while I'm talking about the Steelers defense, Bud Dupree and TJ Watt are seeing the same amount of double teams on defense, 13%, but TJ Watt is winning 30% of the double teams he's facing, and Bud Dupree's winning about 17%. But TJ Watt's a star, man. He's just a star. He's a stud. This guy is a stud on our defense. You see teams game plan for him every week. Dolphins yesterday were chipping him a lot, double teaming him a lot, chipping him with the tight end, chipping him with the running back. You saw Bill Belichick do it in the Patriots game, the first game of the season. So TJ Watt, he just got good hand usage. He has elite bend. He can do spin moves, swim moves. He can power you. But the really thing that impresses me about him is his hands. His hand usage is just next level, man. And you can tell he got that from JJ Watt, because JJ Watt is also good with his hands. He also has brute force and power and stuff. But TJ Watt can beat you with finesse, speed, power, his hands, leverage you, bend around the corner, go up the A gap, and he can rush from anywhere. He can rush up the A. He can rush the guards, the centers, and the tackles. He can rush from anywhere. So the Steelers kind of use him in a amoeba type of role sometimes on third downs, most likely, or usually. But it's just impressive what they're doing. It's just impressive what he's done. I got to give him a lot of credit for that. He's definitely one of the best pass rushers in the league. Definitely a first-round pick that I love. Fourth winner, Cam Newton, because people were questioning whether Kyle Allen should start and take his job. And we actually had rumors of 10 teams being interested in Cam Newton because people were under the mindset that, if Kyle Allen keeps balling, he's going to take Cam Newton's job. Cam Newton has been an MVP and been to a Super Bowl. And we're talking about some other guy taking his job. Now, I get it. Cam Newton's not the greatest thrower of the football. But Cam Newton went healthy. There's not even discussion what this should be. And Cam Newton was a winner on Sunday because the 49ers just obliterated the Carolina Panthers 51-13. Obliterated them. It was embarrassing what happened to Kyle Allen. The 49ers defense is nasty, but geez, what Kyle Allen did, it was abysmal. It was pathetic. 158 yards, 19-37, 3 interceptions, a QBR of 4.7. Are you serious right now? Ugh. That's disgusting. Terrible quarterback play. And we actually were having a discussion about this man beating out Cam Newton and taking his job, a guy we don't even know about. Cam Newton's been consistent his whole career. And we're talking about someone else taking his job. That's a disgrace. It's a disgrace. Anyone that thought that they should be ashamed of themselves. This is a league MVP we're talking about. Shameful. Just shameful. But I digress. Because my other top winner, ironically, is the San Francisco 49ers because of what they're doing on offense and defense. They have a multifaceted zone running scheme with Kyle Shanahan, and he employs a lot of different backs, and they just run it effectively. Jimmy Garoppolo, he's game managed the game well, and he's doing what he does. This defense is just nasty. And Nick Bosa is a star. He is a star. There's nothing else to say. This man is a bona fide star. He generated 5 pressures, got 3 sacks, and also got a 46-yard interception return for a touchdown against the Carolina Panthers. He leads all rookies with 36 quarterback disruptions according to Next Gen Stats. That's hurries, pressures, or sacks. That's what categorizes as a QB disruption. Nick Bosa is just tearing up whoever is across from him. And he has D4, DeForest Buckner, and Eric Armstead next to him. This D-line is ferocious. This defense is ferocious. It's ferocious. The 49ers are not to be reckoned with. They're not to be messed with. This is a legit Super Bowl caliber defense. And they've got a good defensive coordinator. I don't know his name right now, but I'm going to find it eventually because he deserves a lot of credit for this defense. This defense is ferocious. They're nasty. They can do everything. They can rush the passer. They can stop the run, defend the pass, get turnovers, hit you in the mouth. They can do everything. There's no questions about there's no question about this San Francisco defense. The only question there is about the San Francisco 49ers is whether Jimmy Garoppolo can shine when it counts most. And we're going to find that out in the playoffs because the San Francisco 49ers are undefeated. They're 7-0. So we know they're going to go to the playoffs most likely. Unless they just fall off a cliff. But the 49ers are definite winners. I want to get to these top losers, though, because this is some disgraceful stuff that we're seeing from Jameis Winston and Baker Mayfield. And yes, they're number one because they're leading the league in interceptions. Jameis Winston has decided to open up a dessert pop-up shop and serve turnovers. That's what he's decided to do. He's not a football player anymore. He's a dessert owner. He's a dessert restaurant owner. Because this is ridiculous what he's doing. 12 interceptions on the season, along with Baker Mayfield going into business with him. Running the grill station, serving up sirloin L's with his sorry self. This is a joke. Baker Mayfield and the Cleveland Browns are a joke. They are crumbling under expectations, bad coaching, bad front officemanship, if that's a word, Brad, bad officemanship, front officemanship. And Jameis Winston, he's just crumbling under everything. 91 turnovers since 2015, the most in the NFL. Serving up apple turnovers, peach turnovers, pineapple turnovers, all types of turnovers. And Baker Mayfield's doing the same thing, baking them left and right, grilling them left and right, sauteing them left and right, frying them left and right. Oh, Baker, baking up a bunch of L's and turnovers. This is embarrassing what they're doing. You got to get it together, man. This is unacceptable if you're Baker Mayfield and you're Jameis Winston. Bucks need a new quarterback anyways, but Jameis, you were the number 1 overall pick, and this is not good. This is not good. Baker Mayfield, you were the number 1 overall pick too, and it sounds like you signed off on Freddie Kitchens getting a head coaching job. Why did this guy get a head coaching job if he had no head coaching experience? The Browns brought in all this talent. They got Odell Beckham, they got Jarvis Landry, they got Nick Chubb, they got Denzel Ward, they drafted Greedy Williams, you brought in Olivier Vernon, Sheldon Richardson. You brought in all these guys, all this talent on both sides of the ball, and you decided not to have a seasoned head coach. You decided to give it to Freddie Kitchens, who didn't start calling plays to the back half of the season last year after you fired Todd Haley. They didn't think Greg Williams deserved this job, maybe the defensive coordinator from last year. This is just the sign of a poorly run franchise if you're the Cleveland Browns. If you're the Tampa Bay Bucks. There's nothing left with Jameis Winston. You've tried it a bunch of different ways with coordinators, with head coaches. It's over. Just let it go. It's not worth it. Just let it go. Because this is abysmal. It's abysmal. There's nothing left to speak of about these two. They're chefing up L's, and they're apparently in the restaurant business. They're not in the football business right now. They're in the restaurant business. Jameis Winston is running the dessert section, and Baker Mayfield is running the grill and bar section. Serving up L's. Serving up turnovers. It's ridiculous. Both of them are tied for the league lead in interceptions. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Second loser, Andy Dalton, because news just dropped today that he got benched. So it's looking like his time in Cincinnati is up. It's not like it's been that stellar of a career anyways. He's been a serviceable quarterback, but it's not like he's been what everybody expected him to be as a franchise quarterback of the Cincinnati Bengals. But it's not like the Cincinnati Bengals are a stable franchise anyways. Took them years to fire Marvin Lewis after he had no playoff victories for 19 plus seasons. It's disgraceful. Cincinnati Bengals aren't a functional franchise anyway, so it doesn't even matter. There's nothing to discuss about them either. Next loser, Le'Veon Bell. Le'Veon Bell looks like a fool right now. He left the Pittsburgh Steelers, who had a top 5 O-line, top 5 quarterback, and Antonio Brown at the time, for the New York Jets. Adam Gase reportedly didn't even want him. Le'Veon Bell had nowhere else to go. We all know that he got less than what he wanted. He was talking he wanted 16 to 17 million. He wanted to reset the running back market. And he sat all that time and didn't even get what he wanted. Now there were rumors that he was on the trade block today. Rumors are dispelled now because they said he's not going to be traded. But regardless, he wanted to be paid like a running back one and a wide receiver too. And he's yet to eclipse 75 yards in any game. Now, it's not all his fault because the Jets are playing quarterback carousel the first half of the season. Sam Darnold was out with Mondo, so you had Luke Falk in there and Trevor Siemian. But he's averaging only 3 yards per rush. He only has 2 touchdowns and 2 catches in the last 3 games. This isn't wide receiver 2, running back 1 month type production. Get out of here. He only has 109 carries for 349 yards. He's on pace to have a career low in carries, yards, and yards per carry and touchdowns. Excluding the 2015 season where he only played 6 games because he got hurt. This doesn't look good if you're Le'Veon Bell. Looks like you are a product of Pittsburgh. That's what it looks like. It looks like you should have stayed your behind at Pittsburgh. But he decided to hold out, and that was his choice. But him and his agent look foolish right now. There's nothing that points to Le'Veon Bell looking good right now. Because right now, he's struggling. The Jets are struggling, and they want to trade him. The head coach doesn't want him on the team. Involved him in trade rumors. This is a fiasco. It's a fiasco down in New York, and Le'Veon Bell's right in the middle of it. Fourth loser, the Bears defense. Because the Chicago Bears, especially on defense, the Chicago Bears defense, they're going to get wasted away. Because Mitchell Trubisky is the quarterback. The Chicago Bears, I'm going to say it again. Whoever picked Mitchell Trubisky, whoever signed off on that, needs to be fired. That's a fireable offense that you traded up in the draft and took Mitchell Trubisky over to Deshaun Watson and Patrick Mahomes. It's a fireable offense. This is the state of your franchise at risk. The state of your franchise is on the line. You are staking everything in the person you're choosing with that high of a draft pick, the number 2 overall pick. And you chose Mitchell Trubisky. It's unbelievable. You traded up in the draft to draft Mitchell Trubisky when you could have had Deshaun Watson or Patrick Mahomes. That's a fireable offense. It's a fireable offense on the part of the talent evaluators, the quarterback evaluators, the GM if he's involved in it. Now, if the owner said you got to choose this guy, then look, no one deserves to be fired. Because you got to do what the owner says at the end of the day. We've seen that with Dan Snyder and the dysfunctional Washington Redskins and their joke selves. But if not, if the owner didn't sign off on this, or he wasn't the one that told you to specifically draft this guy, someone's got to be gone for this. Someone's got to be gone because Mitchell Trubisky is going to hold this team back. The GM has assembled an elite defense, with the missing piece being Khalil Mack, which he acquired for 2 first-round picks last year from the Oakland Raiders, foolishly by the Oakland Raiders trading him. They're going to waste the year. They're going to waste the good years of this defense away with Mitchell Trubisky at the quarterback position. Because he can't get it done. He can't get it done. They're not the Bears have no hope. Kirk Cousins is at least serviceable. He's respectable. Aaron Rodgers, we know what he can do. There's no questions about him. Matthew Stafford, But Mitchell Trubisky is the worst quarterback in this division. He's the worst. It's unbelievable. The Bears are going nowhere as long as they have Mitchell Trubisky. This defense is going to get wasted away. Its good years are going to get wasted away because Mr. Trubisky's the quarterback. They got to draft another quarterback because they missed on Deshaun Watson and Patrick Mahomes. Last loser, Patrick Mahomes. And it's not because he's hurt. It's not even because the Chiefs lost on Sunday night because I expected them to lose to Aaron Rodgers and the Green Bay Packers. Patrick Mahomes is a loser because this franchise is literally on his shoulders. Patrick Mahomes has no hope on the other side of the ball. This defense is atrocious. It's god-awful. It's pathetic. It's anemic. It's moribund. It is one of the worst defenses in the entire NFL. It's one of the worst defenses I've ever watched. I thought they added more talent, so I thought they'd be respectable. A middle of the pack defense this year with added Frank Clark, Bashaud Breeland. He's not that impressive, but he's okay. He's not better than Steven Nelson. It looks like the Chiefs should have re-signed him. But you added Tyrann Mathieu, you added Bashaud Breeland, you added Frank Clark. You still had Chris Jones, who had 14.5 sacks last year. You add Darren Lee, you trade for him. You got Juan Thornhill. They were bragging about this guy in training camp and offseason. I thought their defense, they still have Kendall Fuller. I thought this defense would at least be respectable. You change defensive coordinators. You hire Steve Spagnuolo to switch to a 4-3 defense. And this defense is still appalling. They can't stop anything. They can't stop the run. They can't stop the pass. It's literally open season on this defense. They are the epitome. It's just unbelievable. This is just the epitome of walking in someone's house and just stealing whatever you want, knowing the homeowners can't stop you. That's the epitome of this, because the Chiefs defense can't stop anything. They can't stop a nosebleed. They can't stop a common cold. It's just pathetic. You can do whatever you want to their defense, and they can't do anything about it. Nothing. There is no hope on this Kansas City Chiefs defense. Everything that the Kansas City Chiefs have is riding on the right arm of Patrick Mahomes. And if he makes a left-handed throw, that too. Everything is riding on Patrick Mahomes because there's no hope on the other side of the ball. There's none. There's nothing to hope for with the Kansas City Chiefs. It's going to be the same story as last year. They might get to the AFC Championship game, but they're going to lose in New England. Because at the end of the day, while the Kansas City Chiefs have the best offensive weapons in the league, at some point, you know Bill Belichick's going to find a way to stop you just enough, whether you put up 30 or not, to win the game. It's a shame that they haven't assembled a defense around this man and he's on his rookie deal. It's a shame. They haven't assembled any talent on defense to give this man a serviceable defense. I mean, geez, if you had a middle-of-the-pack defense, maybe you could win a Super Bowl, but you only have that. Your defense is in the bottom third. 27, 28, 29, 30th, 31st, 32nd type stuff. In every category. It's abysmal. It's just putrid. Kansas City Chiefs have no hope. They have none. I was hoping they'd be... I picked them to go to the Super Bowl because I thought their defense would be better, but this... You can't win anything with this. You're not going anywhere with this. This defense is pathetic. And there's no hope. But I'm going to get out of here because this is supposed to be a condensed version. But I appreciate you guys for listening. Hope you guys enjoyed. As always, if you have questions, leave them in the comments section. I'll answer them for next week's episode. Until then, I'm out. Stay easy.